Welcome to Pause for Peace with me, Pastor Jule. We're releasing this podcast to you on February 9th, 2025, and in the United States of America, all the afternoon hours are turning towards something called the Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowl. Well, you may or may not be aware that the Super Bowl actually inspired a national movement when a youth group just took it upon themselves to challenge their own home church to begin offering something beyond just the excess and extravagance that is so much a part of this day. They actually encouraged their own congregation to begin a Super Bowl of caring, a soup, SOUP, Super Bowl of caring. And Super Bowl of caring is a way on this day, and if you're listening to this on Wednesday, that's okay, because the Super Bowl, you will have known who has won. I don't know yet who has won. But the Super Bowl is a time of such excess in terms of the amount of money that goes into one football game, one afternoon. Think of it, if you've been to a party or a get together with friends or at family or neighbors, whatever, like there's so much money that gets spent on just preparing for that festivity. But beyond that, there's so much money around celebrations, there at the game, halftime show, thereafter, the parties that take place. That doesn't even count how much the athletes are getting paid. And in the middle of this massive amount of feasting and gorging and celebrating a football game, not that I'm against football or the NFL, I'm a diehard Green Bay Packer fan, no matter that they've not been there and won't be in the big dance. But this is a day of great excess when there are people in our own communities who are hungry. Like, we might be able to gorge out on a massive feast or special snacks that we have with our friends for the Super Bowl. But there are other people who don't even have food every day. Like, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't have the money to be able to go to the grocery store. And many who maybe, grew up in other lands, who knew how to farm their own land in another land, and they come here and they live in a place where they can't do that anymore. And so they don't even have a way to get their own fresh fruit off the fruit trees that they might have been able to get in their home country. And so this Super Bowl of caring is a way to pause in the midst of all the celebrations, have the celebrations, enjoy yourself, be safe, but also remember there are others who are food insufficient, and even others in our own city who are homeless without access to food every day. Super Bowl of Caring is a way to give something so that others will be able to eat today. And we have encouraged our church members and friends to give to Super Bowl of Caring through Hillwood Presbyterian Church, because all of those gifts go for our food mission ministry that we do. Almost every week we are delivering food to those that we know who don't live that far from this beautiful place in Hillwood, the west side of Nashville, and who are hungry. They are food insecure. Many of them are children born right here in the United States, and they are hungry. So for a time of response to this call to remind us to be generous in sharing what we have, even if it's $5, because $5 is probably less than you might pay for like a coffee somewhere. Even if it's $5 will go a long way when we are purchasing nutritious, healthy food that we're able to get from sources where it's like bought in mass, and so it's cheaper than it might be in a grocery store. So even $5 will go a long way to help out. And if all of us who are listening give $5, suddenly we have, $100, $200, $300, $400, $5,000. It's that easy. That's how it is when we pour out our hearts and generously give what we can. I'm not asking you to give more than you have. That's not going to be helpful. We don't need you out on the street hungry. But if we can give what we can, even if it's a little bit, in fact, that's part of this whole understanding of the way our hearts get opened. When we give and give gratefully, and when we give and we give in a way that is appreciating what we have and how we recognize that we're connected with all others and we want them to have what they need. We're not necessarily saying, oh, we want to buy excessive things for them. We want them to have something as simple as bread to eat tonight, as milk to drink, which is an incredibly important thing when you are a growing child, to have strong, healthy bones and teeth. We want somebody else to have what we take for granted every day. That opens our heart space when we give in that an intentional way, so that somebody else will have what they need today. And in our pause for peace, we will turn to our heart space, but I want to share as best as I can a meditation that I learned actually when we were hosting meditation classes here. We had a meditation teacher who came in and offered weekly classes for a while. And she was trained in not even Christian practices, but other practices. She was trained in Christian practices and other practices like Buddhist practice, Hindu practice, these ways of attuning to your heart and seeking to send love out into the world. So in honor of Super Bowl of Caring, if you will join, this is not going to be what's classically known as the loving kindness prayer, which was one of the prayer forms we were taught in our meditation class, but it's going to be something along that lines. So if you will attune inward for a little bit, put those feet flat on the ground wherever you are, and truly notice, like last week we were like noticing how we could be like this oak tree with roots going down deep into the earth and branches stretching high into the heavens so that we could be open to receive from below and from above. And so if you'll put those feet flat on the earth, once again, even if you're in a high rise, somewhere down below you is land, the earth holding you. And notice the connection of your feet to the ground when your feet are flat, when both of your feet are flat at the same time. Your connection to the ground. And you might imagine that connection going down deep, deep, deep into the earth. You stand in this spot. I've once heard a theologian write, if you want to know where God is and where God can show up, we'll just look down at your feet. X marks the spot. This is the place where you live, the body from which you have an opportunity to make a difference, one small act at a time. And in the loving kindness meditation, we bring awareness to our heart space. And again, I'm not leading a loving kindness, the loving kindness meditation, but a similar practice. Our heart space is right at the center of our chest. We keep our feet grounded in the earth. If you start to find monkey mind taking over, your mind is wandering, you're thinking about the laundry list of things, then once again, bring awareness to your feet. You will stay grounded in this present moment. Awakening your heart space, the energy center in the middle of your chest. Set that intention for your heart space to open so that you might begin to feel this flow. It's that flow of the energy of love, because our heart space is about the energy of unconditional love for ourselves, innate harmony, forgiveness. Unconditional love can flow from us as well out into the world. And that's what we want to imagine in this pausing for peace. But first, let's make sure that energy in our heart space, that energy of unconditional love. What does that mean? Unconditional love means I let go of beating myself up for all of the ways that I beat myself up every day. Like my hair looking as it does today, and the mess up that I made yesterday, and the way I wasn't kind enough to somebody the other day, and even the shame that I might carry, whatever it is, we all have something. We all have some of that baggage, and some of us allow that to take over our head space and our heart space way more than it needs to. Part of the journey of life is loving ourselves fully as we are, regardless of what we've done, who we are, the patterns that we have over and over and over again. How can we expand this unconditional love? In the dream world, we call this shadow boxing. We're ceasing from banishing parts of ourselves. We're reclaiming all of the pieces of ourselves. And we are showering ourselves with this beautiful unconditional love that can pour forth from our own hearts. You might even feel it like, maybe it feels like in your chest, like something hard. And as you awaken your heart space, you allow it all to melt. And maybe it's like melting butter, melting chocolate, running all over your own frame, your own system. Awakening our heart in this quiet time for the unconditional love we need for ourselves. Now that I've mentioned the kinds of things that can pull so many of us off, make sure you are once again grounded in the bottom of your feet. Don't go into a shame spiral right now. No messages to beat yourself up right now. Keep yourself grounded right here in this present moment, allowing the energy of the heart space to expand, to melt, to be stirred up, however you're experiencing it in your own hearts. You might even feel it like beginning to emanate out, like swirling out from the center of your chest and from the back of your being as well. The heart space emanates in all directions. Saturating yourself with this beautiful gift that we don't give ourselves enough, this beautiful gift of unconditional love, full acceptance of self. Innate harmony, meaning that I am truly within all of my being is in harmony. My physical, my emotional, my mental, my spiritual being, all is in harmony together. I am forgiving towards myself so that I can allow this energy of forgiveness, of unconditional love to move forward out into the world. This is a way to show loving kindness to ourselves. And as we continue in the quiet, let's take a deep breath and release it, allowing that arc of air, that wave of air to crash. As we release, the waves crash along the shore, And in honor of Super Bowl of Caring, of all I've mentioned about those who are hungry in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in our states, throughout our nation, and around this world, I invite us to bring to mind somebody. Might not be somebody we even know, but somebody who is in need. Somebody you might have noticed as you were dashing about today. Somebody you've been trying to help all throughout your week or all throughout your life. Somebody who needs the gift of loving kindness this day, because in the quiet, with these awakened hearts, grounded right here in the present moment, receiving from ourselves the gift of unconditional love, we want that energy of the heart to begin to flow forth. And you might even imagine that you are like sending the energy of unconditional love to somebody else who is in need. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's hungry. Anybody that you know in your world who is in some kind of need. It might just be somebody who's stressed out at work, or your friend who has just found out something horrible, a way that might have been betrayed, or a way that something's happening in their own families that is breaking their hearts. Whoever it is who is in need, whether it's that hungry child that you're seeking to offer food to every day, or whoever it is in need, if you'll bring them to mind, almost see them like standing a little bit in front of you, facing you, like you're face to face with this person or this child or this adult, however large or tall they are. This person that you know that is in need. Might even be somebody who's sick. So much illness has been going around. So it might even be somebody who's sick. So kind of see them standing out before you. And as we open our hearts to them and like send this loving kindness to them, offering it to their heart and to their whole being, to like allow loving kindness to infiltrate every bit of who they are. Because sometimes we know people who have needs that are going to take a lifetime to heal. People who are living through seasons that are incredibly challenging, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And while this moment is an important one, to share this gift of love with them, at the same time, their journey might be a long one ahead. So you might literally see this unconditional love like spiraling forth from yourself to them, covering them entirely with this beautiful unconditional love. Now, to ensure that we don't get enmeshed with this person, at least energetically enmeshed, let's allow that flow of that loving kindness to come to a pause, to allow it to be something that they receive fully in their being and don't need to keep pulling forth from you. So you might even want to imagine that there's a little bubble of love around you, and like an egg, and it has a little bit of a shell. It's permeable. It's not like hard so that nothing can get through or come out. But there's like this protective boundary around you so that the love that's in your heart for yourself also continues, even as we seek to live and give loving kindness to the world around us. And in the loving kindness meditation we learned here among Hillwood Presbyterian Church USA, we actually were encouraged to see somebody with whom we are struggling. It might be somebody in our own personal life in whose face we can't see the light of God because of something that has happened to us at their hands, or perhaps something that has been said to us or done to us by this person. This might just be somebody who, maybe it's just like the type of personality that can drive you crazy left and right. Somebody with whom you're struggling at work. It doesn't have to be somebody who's truly harmed you. It might just be somebody you're having a challenge with right now, and you're about to lose your cool with right now. And so in the loving kindness meditation we were encouraged with this like awakened heart and this energy of unconditional love to also offer that gift of unconditional love. So we can do that same practice we just did for somebody who we know is in need, and we can invite this person. This takes a lot of courage and energy, but give it a try. We can invite this person with whom we might be angry, or we're struggling, or they just drive us crazy every day. Whoever this might be, you may want them to be a little bit further from you. That's fine. You might imagine them being, more like 10 steps away from you as opposed to like 3 or 4, maybe further than that, however it needs to be. You're going to keep yourself safe because you got this, boundary of your love that is permeable, so it can go forth and can receive, but it's not going to receive anything but love. Not going to let anything but love like dart into you. But aware of the presence of this other person, preferably imagining they're facing you about, 10 paces away, aware of them, we once again pray for our own heart energy to expand and to overflow to them. And perhaps if we are able to allow this action of flowing love to them, because really we're the conduit for love. We're like, this is the Spirit's work, if you will. This is how God works. There's love in us, but there's love beyond us, and we can be those who pass that love along. So with that intention of being this conduit of love, especially for somebody with whom we struggle, offering them the gift of unconditional love, and doing what we can in these moments, not to close our heart, not to shut our eyes, even though your eyes might be shut in this meditation, but to seek to see the presence of the divine in them, offering this loving kindness to them. It might be really challenging to see the presence of love within. I think I've quoted before, I believe it's Julian of Norwich, who says, we should not sin because sin actually hinders others from seeing the presence of God within us. So I'm not saying this other person has sinned, but personalities, traumas, challenging dynamics, actions for which forgiveness is needed, all of that can mar us from seeing the presence of God in another. And many people are not even aware that the presence of God is in them. And so they don't even seek to cultivate that and allow that light to be seen through them. But there are moments there are moments, and it might not be a moment you see. There are moments when that light of God flickers forth. It might be when they're in that moment of the flow of creativity, or when they're laughing with a child, or when they're in the arms of their beloved. There are moments when everybody, all the light comes forth at some point in time, even if it's been forever in their days. So seek to see the presence of love in them, the presence of God in them. And if you can't see it yet, trust that the presence of God is in all. The goodness of God is in all, no matter how much we can mess up our own lives and make it really hard for anybody to see anything that looks like goodness. It's like it can get like covered over by living. But it's there in the bedrock of every human being. So we're continuing to offer unconditional love. We're seeking to see the presence of God within. And then when it feels complete, or at least complete enough for this moment, we're going to once again kind of stop sending that energy out, that love overflowing outwards. We're going to have a pause of that happening and continue to bring that energy of love back into our own hearts. And again, that beautiful boundary of our little egg, this little mandorla that we are, this little almond shape that we are, the energy that emanates around us. Both sides, we want to reseal that boundary for a little bit. It's almost like the shield that is around us. It's when we're in it or somebody else like comes into it, we know if it gets violated. We can feel that, especially if you keep attuned to this little bubble being that you are. We can feel when it's like, ooh, somebody just got too close. Literally, it's because their energy is impacting you. Think of it if we're like all these little cocoons of energy walking around with our little egg around us. It's not just this physical skin that we are. So we want to keep that boundary strong so that nothing but love emanates out and nothing but love is allowed in. All for the highest good. We awaken the unconditional love of self once again. We ground ourselves back in this present moment, being aware of the soles of our feet, grounded here in this place. I invite you to inwardly express some form of gratitude for whatever you have experienced in this time, whatever you've noticed. This practice is for your wholeness and for the wholeness of all the world. Even if we get up from these moments of quiet and unconditional love flitters away, the unconditional love that we might have had awaken in these moments, if it flitters away, at least we know for this moment that energy of unconditional love loving kindness for self and others, those in need, those with whom we struggle. All of it goes forth for this world to become a more peaceful, whole creation. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes, maybe even seeing through your lens of your eyes now the presence of love, the presence of God, the presence of the Spirit, the presence of that light within whatever you're seeing, whoever you're seeing before you now. I appreciate so much that you have taken the time to pause for peace, and I challenge you in our little children's book that we shared in worship today. We were reminded that it only takes one step. One step is the action we have to take. Just one little thing that we do has that ripple effect moving forward. We don't, like I said in our prayers, we don't need to know the end of the journey. We just need to take the first step, the first action. And remembering that we live here on this earth, right where we are, X marks the spot. This is the place from which we can serve others, from which we can love others. We don't have to be handling all the problems on the other side of the world. Our responsibility is to love and share love with the person who comes before us, to make an impact here first, to love ourselves first, love those around us. Then we can start reaching out. Others need it everywhere, but notice the call this week of doing that one thing for the person who shows up and is in need before you. It can be the most challenging thing to actually do. Easier to send our money off somewhere else, send our prayers off to somebody on the other side of the world. It can be a lot more difficult to be trying to attend to the needs of the person right in front of you. I hope you'll join me next week. Have a wonderful time. Continue to pause for peace all throughout the week. Blessings.